That's good.
All right, let me start up our PowerPoint and hope this works. Okay, so you see Ignite, skills to spark a great career.
Mhm.
Okay, good. We're working. All right, so today our topic, well, wait, Peter already knows this, but the way it's been working, we have two different topics that we're gonna discuss today. One talks about sparking a great career. And that's what we will start with today. And delivering your value proposition is our topic for today. And I think the value proposition, this is a good thing to discuss because it's going to help you with your lead generation. It's going to help you with your marketing. As you go out and get your, you've got your Facebook or all your social media, and you're going to be coming up with brochures, you need to know what you're going to say. Plus, when you talk to people, you're meeting new clients or meeting new people, what about you are you going to be telling them? There's lots and lots of realtors out there, and you need to be coming up with what is special about you? What skills do you have? What makes you a better realtor than everyone else? How do you differentiate yourself? So that's what we're going to be looking at today. So we're going to be focusing on how to bring your customers, your community to your business. All right, and this is just shows how successful agents, what we do every day, we have to grow the business. And that's what we were talking about earlier. Really, this is it right here. Lead generate for buyers and sellers. There is no business if you're not lead generating and getting new buyers and sellers. And the value proposition is going to be part of that. Even these things here that they have, I would actually put those over on the run business. All right, so define your value. First, we're going to define what a value proposition is. Then we're going to explore three essential aspects of the service we provide, because we need to think about how our values and skills actually relate to the real estate services that we provide. Then we're going to dig into your unique qualities and craft up a value proposition for you to use. All right, so a value proposition. In simple terms, it is a simple and precise description of the benefits the customer will get from working with you. It should clearly convey all the things you do to earn the fee that you charge. And your value proposition is a covenant between you and your customer. So we're telling them, what we can do. We're letting them know what we can do. We have to figure out why we're special, what we're good at. We need to convey it to them, and then it becomes a covenant that we have to practice. All right, so the three aspects of service. This was something that Gary Keller, who's the owner, CEO of Keller Williams Dulles, when he was researching for the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, he noted that every top producing agent he spoke with had a deep and almost inherent sense of service. You cannot grow a real estate business if you don't prioritize your client's experience above all else. A stellar experience is how you earn your commission and you get your referrals. So that he identified three different aspects of service known as the underlying purpose of real estate, which is a compelling value proposition and the fiduciary. Together, these three aspects guarantee that your clients will have the best possible real estate experience. So now all right, so what is the purpose for real estate? A lot of times, we think about different things that we can do well, but we need to figure out, is that really what buyers and sellers are looking at? What is the purpose of real estate? So for buyers, we're trying to find them the right home at the best price in the right time with the least amount of problems. For sellers, it's about netting them the most money, shortest amount of time, and with the least amount of problems. So some of those are sort of opposing to each other. You know, the buyer wants to spend the least, seller wants the most. But the one thing that they're both looking for is with the least amount of problems. So that's one of the things to focus on, that when we're thinking of what are our strengths, what are our skills, a lot of them will go towards how do we avoid these problems throughout the real estate transaction. All right, so value proposition, it's going to describe your service offerings and a set of benefits for your client. It states what you do for the client to earn your commission and helps to explain the complexity of what you do. It also helps hold you accountable to high standards. So I think this is a good time, and if you have your workbook with you, on page 4, it says reflect on your value. And we're going to take a couple moments. Number 1, what words would you use to describe yourself? Number 2, how do people that know you describe you? 3, what skills do you have that make you a great real estate agent? And what experiences do you have that make you great at real estate? So take a couple minutes and jot those down on page 4. Just for example, some of the ones that I have used on my own value proposition were being a problem solver, liking to help people, knowing the local area well, offering professional staging and photography. I'm a strong negotiator, good communicator, honest and reliable. So things like that. So as you're writing these down, what we're going to then be thinking about is how we can merge these into skills, expertise, and insights that are relevant to your clients. For example, one of the things you might write down is I'm bilingual, but how does that then convey to your client? When we're writing down our value proposition, we want to be expressing it in a way that it helps our clients. We don't want to say I'm bilingual. You might want to say something like, by speaking multiple languages, I have access to a large pool of potential buyers for your home that are often overlooked by other agents. You know, something, how that trait actually can help your client out. Okay, you guys done? Okay. All right, so next aspect of service is fiduciary. So fiduciary is having you have a fiduciary duty to your clients to protect their best interests during what will likely be the largest and most frightening transaction of their life. A fiduciary refers to a fiduciary obligation. And so you are your client's fiduciary, which means not only do you complete the tasks that are necessary to be done, but you have to put your client's interests ahead of all others, even your own. So your job as a fiduciary agent to your clients is to put their needs, their requests, their interests ahead of everyone's. So it's a big deal to be a fiduciary for someone. Okay. So we're going to talk about value proposition. And we're going to look at some data from buyers and sellers. So now that we have a list of some different skills that we can bring to the table, we want to see how we can really aim those towards our buyers and sellers' needs. All right, so here's what they have done. Some surveys. This says 2018 profile. Home buyers. So NAR did this, National Association of Realtors. So they went out, interviewed a lot of people, and this is kind of what they found out, that number one thing is helping to find the right home to purchase, helping with price with negotiations, help buyer negotiate the terms of sale. Those were the top three things that buyers wanted from their real estate agent. All right, and then what do buyers value? Top things here: reputation of the agent, that the agent is honest and trustworthy. Quite often the agent is a friend or family member. Obviously, that's not really something, well, you can be a friend to people by communicating with them with your database. Family member, you either are or you aren't. Agent's knowledge of the neighborhood. So these are the top things that buyers want from their agent and what they value. Okay, and likewise, what sellers want. Sellers want help marketing their home. They need help pricing it competitively. They want help to sell it within their specific time frame. They want you to find buyers for them, and they want help negotiating and dealing with the buyers. You know, how do we negotiate what they want and times and all of that? Okay, and then what sellers value? The reputation of the agent, that the agent is honest and trustworthy. Heard that one before. Friend or family member. Agent's experience. All right, so now look at that list that you came up with, your skills, and try now to reword those descriptions of yourself, your skills, things that your experiences, and try to write them in a way as to how they would help service a buyer or a seller. And here's some examples of how I did. So I mentioned I'm a problem solver. So one of my things I say is you can count on us to provide solutions to your unique problems. Another one being, you know, I like helping people. So I said, I will be your helping hands throughout the moving process. So like for strong negotiator, our expert negotiation skills will drive the best price for you. Good communicator, I said, our detailed communication will navigate you through a smooth and successful transaction. So those are a few examples. So you want to take those skills that you have and reword them in a way so they directly can relate to how you can help those buyers and sellers based on what we just heard are the main things they're looking for. I'll give you a minute here. Okay. So, who are your competitors? This is a big deal, especially when you're new. There are thousands of very experienced realtors in the area, and that you are going to be competing against. So you need to really be thinking about what those different skills and how they affect you can use those with your buyers and sellers. What really makes you different? How are you then going to market yourself against all these realtors? We also have iBuyers. People are doing more online. We've got commissions that are going down, with Redfin and other type companies. So we need to come up with ways to counter those value propositions. So based on some of the things you have so far, what are some of your ideas, even as a new agent, what you can do with your skills that would be more beneficial to a buyer or a seller than someone else? Peter, what have you been using?
So you go with the obvious. So I'm experienced in business broadly and specifically in real estate, and so I can bring that experience to bear for your advantage as a client. I've lived in the area for 25 plus years, so I have, and I'm very active in the community. So I've got a deep knowledge of the community.
So let's go back to your business one.
Okay.
How are you phrasing that? So, when you're talking, I have years of business experience, and this helps you. How are you then, like, if you're writing down your bio or you're talking on the phone with someone new, what's the wording that you use? How do you express how your business experience now is going to help them after we discussed what buyers and sellers are looking for?
Well, at its core, a real estate transaction is a business transaction. So we need to be aware of the provisions of contracts, the provisions of applicable laws, and that's the expertise. That's part of the expertise that I bring to the table, as well as many years of successful marketing experience.
Okay. Yeah, so you want to be specific as to how those, your experience when you don't want to just say I'm experienced businessman. You want to come up with those real nuggets that can be directly related to how it's going to help the buyer or seller. I have I have years of marketing, so I know how to attract buyers to your house. And and like knowing the contracts, I've been dealing with contracts, so I know how to negotiate the best for you. So you kind of want to, make sure you're translating those different nuggets into the services that we provide, to our clients. Okay, Catherine, do you have what were you writing down? You have some ideas on this? I know you're brand new, so we're kind of throwing you in the fire here.
Yeah. I think off the top of my head, two different ideas. One, I am newer to this area. I only moved here about 8 years ago, but I have really learned and kind of with the new set of eyes, seeing what is growing, how it is for a young family in this area, how you can kind of develop your communities as a young family in this area. The other thing is my background is in art history and art. I interned at the Smithsonian for a while, and maybe visually what might be appealing for marketing purposes or staging a home, what would be aesthetically pleasing for maybe the buyer, and kind of use that to their advantage. That's kind of me just brainstorming there.
Right. So, yeah, so you can directly, take that skill, put it towards, this will enable me to market and stage better, stage your home better to bring, again, it's not just staging, but what does staging do? It'll bring more money to you with the offers. Again, you want to show how that's actually going to translate. What do they want? They want more money when they're selling their house. Staging and having this, ability to interior decorate will help bring more money to them without you charging them extra, something like that. So, just another thing that comes up, and this isn't really a specific skill towards a buyer or seller, but something I always want to mention, as new agents, it is hard to say, even with these different skills, they're going to be, people are looking at you thinking, why would I want to go with a brand new agent over an experienced agent? And my very first client, and actually, I think it was the only person really that ever asked me this, he did ask how long I had, he didn't ask how long, he asked how many successful transactions I had had, or how many of the houses that, that I put on the market didn't sell, or something like this. And this was my very first transaction. So I'm kind of like, oh, 0, I've never done any. But I told him, I said, look, I admit to you, I'm a newer agent, but the way I turned that was, a lot of the other agents right now, it is spring and they have so many clients, you're just going to get a small slice of their attention. I said, I told them, you are the only client I'm working with right now, and you will have my full attention and 100% of my time and effort, along with the mentor and team that's helping me out. So that was a, good way to twist being new to being an advantage. And he did end up selecting me, and everything went well. So that's something to keep in mind, though, as a new agent, that you may not have as much business as everyone else, so you can focus more time and energy on that specific client.
Makes sense.
Okay, so one other thing with Keller Williams, they have a lot of great opportunities for technology. So just being with Keller Williams, you can learn all the features with Command and the KW app, and that is a real benefit to being at Keller Williams, that you have all this technology to help your consumers to be on top of things, get a wide variety, get just a lot of, if you're a tech savvy person, there's a lot of features that we have here at Keller Williams that are at your disposal to use. All right, so now we're going to take a moment to actually write up your value proposition. This is supposed to be a unique, memorable, and persuasive statement that expresses the true value of working with you, and says what you are doing to earn your commission, and holds you accountable to those high standards. So when you say you have skills, or if you're knowledgeable on an area, these different things that you say, you have to make sure you keep up with that and you actually give that service to your clients. If you are a local area expert, you better know everything. You better know the HOA, you need to know a lot of the details of what goes on in that particular area and keep up with that. So take a few moments, and now that we've talked a little bit about how you take your skill and make sure you're matching it with how it actually helps with one of those services to the buyer and seller, and write down a few sentences as to something like this would be something that you would sort of memorize. You would use it in your in your marketing. You use it when you talk to people. It's a short memorable description of your top selling points of why they should hire you over someone else. I'll give you a couple minutes here. Just let me know when you're finished.
I don't know if I'm finished, but I'm probably ready to discuss.
Okay. Okay, Catherine, are you finished or still writing?
I'm still working through it, but yeah, I'm open to.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and let me say, I went through multiple renditions of coming up with the value proposition that, just figuring out exactly what your skills, what you really feel your skills are. And sometimes it wasn't until I had been doing real estate for a while that I kind of thought, yeah, I guess this, what are my best skills or the skills I really want to advertise? And I reworked, I thought about slogans and proposition statements, mission statements, vision statements, all of these. And I took different classes. So this is sort of your first crack at it. Or I don't know, Peter may have done this before, but it comes in very handy when, again, on your website and your social media, they have this bio and you're kind of like, well, what do I really want to write and what do I want to emphasize? So
This is what they call in graduate school your elevator pitch, correct?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll read what I have. And again, I'm not saying this is great or right or what the Keller Williams expert or someone teaching a professional doing this would come up with. But I tried to take these different concepts and put them into a paragraph. You don't want anything too long. My company's called the J Team. So I said, the J Team would love the opportunity to help you or someone you know buy, sell, or rent a house. You can count on us to provide solutions to your unique problems and to be your helping hands throughout the moving process. If buying or renting, You will receive in-depth neighborhood knowledge to discover your ideal community. If you are selling, you will receive high-quality marketing with professional staging and photography to attract the most buyers to your property. Our expert negotiation skills will drive the best price for you, and our detailed communication will navigate you through a smooth and successful transaction. So again, what I did, I started off with those skills being problem solver, like to help people, know the area well, good, strong negotiator, good communicator. I took some of those skills and then turned them into a paragraph, but showed how those skills and using description, nice description, um, showed how they could actually help the buyers and sellers, what those buyers and sellers are looking for. So you don't ever want to just say, I'm a great problem solver. You want to say how that problem solving is going to help them in their process. So it's going to provide the solutions to their unique problems. They're going to have problems. So I'm providing the solutions. So that's sort of the way you want that paragraph to go. Either of you want to mind reading your value proposition, what you wrote down so far?
Sure, I'll take a shot at it.
Okay.
So I'm a 35-year resident of Northern Virginia, and I've been in Cascades for 27 years, and we've raised our 2 children in this wonderful neighborhood and put them through our great school system. And in my previous careers in the Navy and as a government contractor, I've been repeatedly recognized for my integrity and professionalism. My experience in business enables me to navigate high pressure situations calmly and objectively. And as both a family man and a military man, I empathize with the many nuances of moving a family, and I had moved my own family several times. So I'm here to help market your home and get you, the best value.
Good. Yeah, so just, again, you want to make sure you're emphasizing how those skills are helping you, the client. I noted, like with mine, I have the word you about 10 times in there, how this relates to you, the reader or the client or the customer. So just make sure that you have it worded in ways that you're focusing on them. What do they get? They don't care about your skills and how wonderful you are, but how does that directly relate to helping them with their buying and selling issues? So I think you definitely got that in there in some of the spots, and some of the spots might want to re-emphasize a little bit, specifically how those skills and how that experience benefits them. So,
Yeah.
Okay, Catherine?
Honestly, I'm still working through it.
Okay, that's all
So
right.
I definitely, a big part of it is honesty, being straightforward. I'm pretty much shoot from the hip, not lying. I'm going to be honest with you. If I'm not going to sugarcoat anything.
Okay,
I think I'm again going to really push the young family and really learning the area, building the area. And I agree with you. As a new agent, an agent who doesn't even technically have her license yet, just passed the test a week ago.
yeah,
I think the pushing the I am limited. I do not have clients right now, but I will work very hard for you because you are my most valuable client because you were my only client kind of
yeah,
ideal. But it's a lot to think about. You don't always think about what your value is,
right,
and really having to establish that and then communicate that to people because I feel in general, we're not used to tooting our own horn and really selling ourselves. So I think
Yeah.
that's a little bit of a hurdle I need to get over.
Yes.
To sell yourself and your abilities, so people, like you said, the clients will be comfortable knowing that you have their best interests in mind.
Yeah.
So so yeah, this is a lot to think about, because
Yeah.
you don't want it just to sound fake. You want it to sound very genuine, but it's really hard. So this is something I need to work on,
Yeah,
definitely.
and like I said, it took me a long time of recrafting things and going over, and I changed it. But initially I might have talked when I was newer. I emphasized certain things, maybe more from my past experience, like Peter's doing. Taking out things from his career that would directly help him as a realtor and help the buyer and seller. He can take all those direct experiences and say these will relate to your home buying or home selling experience, and here's how. So I started off more that way, and then after I did real estate for a little while, transitioned more into, okay, what do I really, after a while you see what other agents do too. There are agents, again, we mentioned bilingual, that's a big thing if you're bilingual. Some have special, they work with a contractor, so they're great with fixer uppers, and helping you get that house fixed up in the best way and buy all this stuff and, do that. Everyone has sort of a different, some focus on certain types of homes, certain neighborhoods. Maybe some do $1 million homes. I know some people that focus just on condos or townhomes.
It was really smart of Peter to mention the relocating numerous times due to being in the military and stuff like that, especially around here. That's huge. So I think that's very smart, you putting that into your value proposition. I think that's really helpful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And I would just like to add, I don't really see it in a value proposition, but one of the things that I've found extremely helpful when I'm talking to people who are not like me, which is most people, is cultural diversity. I mentioned that I've had the opportunity to travel literally around the world, and I have a great appreciation of cultural diversity, and particularly with Hispanic contacts and clients, that really resonates. People that may not get the respect that they deserve. And Art, not to pick on you, but that's something you might be able to leverage as well.
Yeah, definitely. Again, that's another area of expertise. I will tell you, I'm the opposite. I have not traveled all around. I grew up in a Midwestern town in Ohio, and I don't do well with accents. I have a hard time literally understanding people if they have a very strong accents. And there's other people that, like at work, I would work with someone and they would be sitting there listening, and I'd be kind of like, I'm lost. And I'd be like, how do you know what they're with that accent, how do you know what they're saying? And so that is something that I know that's one area maybe I don't go after as much, but so these are different things that will help you as you do this value proposition. Not only does it help you with your marketing, it gives you something to say, but it also helps you decide, what is your market going to be? Who are you going after? You can't sell to the whole world. We don't have the skills to sell. I mean, you can sell here and there, but most of the successful agents will focus on, again, a location, a type of house, a type of people, something that they are comfortable with. We had one guy in our office that was into dogs, breeding dogs. So he focused on all these people that were also dog lovers. That was something they had in common. Amy Geyer loves horses, so she focuses more on further out west and farmlands and things like that. So you kind of have to find what your niche is going to be. And when you think about value proposition and what you have to offer, that starts to help you with your whole business, what direction you want your business to go. So I'm going to kind of veer from our slides here and go a little more in depth into, we do value proposition. We've talked about that. But what I then went on and I took some different classes to help me focus a little more on what I really wanted to do. Coming up with like a vision statement. What do I really, how do I want my business to run? What is really the point of my business? Now, we're all doing this to make money, obviously, we're making a living. But again, what is sort of my style? What is my company going to be like? And how am I going to operate? And my vision statement became neighbors helping neighbors fulfill their home ownership dreams. And I came up with that because I sell a lot in my own community. I have a lot of friends. I'm involved with, lots of activities right here in my community. So I wanted to focus on that. And what I've done with my business then, although we talked about what buyers and sellers are really looking for, I sort of went a step beyond that. So my whole, I guess you'd say, mission statement then includes a ongoing service. So I don't want to just do a transaction with someone and be done and just send them nice letters every once in a while. I really focus on my community and what I can provide for them on an ongoing basis. So here's part of what I came up with for my mission statement. Home ownership continues well beyond the sales transaction ends. So the J team provides an ongoing home service to our friends, neighbors, and clients. We help make home ownership easier for you by, and then in bullets I have recommending local home service providers, suggesting home maintenance tips, providing staging ideas, sharing housing market analysis, delivering monthly newsletters, announcing community services and events, and much more. Well, not just announcing, providing. Mm-hmm. So some of the ways that I market then, I have a list of like service providers, and people will ask me, neighbors, friends, people, everyone that knows I'm a realtor, they will contact me if they ever want hardwood floors. Who do you use for hardwood floors? So that's sort of an ongoing service that I do. I will come to people's house at any time, whether they're selling soon or not, to help with staging ideas. I'll go through and tell them what they need to do to get their house ready, even if it's 5 years away, doesn't matter. Different home maintenance tips. I have a newsletter that I send out. In that newsletter, it gives information on what houses have sold in our neighborhood, what's going on in our community with the marketing. I give the different statistics. So this is sort of what I've done. I decided, I tried different things, because you'll learn about all different types of ways to market, ways to lead generate. And what I focused on was farming in my community and coming up with these like vision statements, value proposition, mission statements, all sort of helped me focus on what I really wanted my business to be. And that will really help you with your lead generation when you have a focus of what you're trying to do. Who are the people you're trying to help? What is your focus? And how do you market to them? All right. Any questions? Okay. Okay, and this slide here talks more about distinguishing yourself. So again, kind of what we were talking about. How do you personally and your business, how do you distinguish yourself from everyone else out there in the world? And it's not just something that you say. I always was surprised, like when you go to your website, there'd be this canned bit of information you could use as your bio or something, or what you do. But when you read it over, you really need to think of, do I really do that? Is that really where I shine? And make sure you again focus on what distinguishes you from everyone else. And like Catherine, you're talking about young families and stuff. So if you're a young family, that's who you start to market toward. Maybe your marketing becomes centered on that. You find neighborhoods where young families tend to go. Maybe you get involved with school activities, preschool, whatever your area is, and you kind of start marketing in that direction then. Okay, and then the three aspects of service: knowing the purpose of real estate, your value proposition, and your fiduciary role all contribute to the same goal, ensuring the best experience for your client. So now that you understand each of these aspects and how to deliver, it's on to delivering. So that's kind of what we were talking about there. Where you're going to deliver these, how you're going to do it. Peter, what in your mind, what qualifies as an excellent real estate experience?
Boy, that's a broad question. I would say in a nutshell, a smooth transaction, in other words, reduce the hassles as much as possible, reduce the stress, and then meet the client's objectives, whether it's finding the right home or getting the best price. And I could go on for a while, but I'll stop there.
Right. No, I think that was good. You're meeting their objectives and you want it to be a smooth transaction. So when you're coming up again with these value propositions and you're saying that you're going to do certain things, you need to, as a realtor, you need to do a lot of work in coming up with, how do I really achieve these goals? What do I need to do? So one of the things I mentioned, having the service providers. So I have a list of over 100 different service providers for different issues that can go wrong during a real estate transaction. Because, if you have a seller and they have a plumbing issue, who are they going to go to? They're going to go to you, and they're going to ask you, who is the best plumber? Who should I call? Or, landscaping or whatever comes up. I had someone just the other day, their steps were crumbling a little bit. And they're like, well, what do you think we should do? Well, here, I'm going to go home and I'm going to send you the name of this guy who specializes in that. He can come, he gives free estimates. So that's an example of, one of the things you need to be doing is coming up with ways to ensure those transactions are going to be smooth. You need to be coming up, meeting different service companies in the area, or like what I did initially, I got together with other realtors and we all swapped names. Oh, here's one thing. This was a thing that I did to kind of kick off the service provider database. And it was great touch to people that I know, my sphere of influence. I sent an email out to all my friends and neighbors asking, hey, do you have any home service companies that have done a great job that you would recommend? And if so, send them to me. So that's how I started and then I said in my email, once I come up with a collection, I'll share them with you. So that's a way that, was a way to reach out to people, let them know I'm a real estate agent, or reinforce that I'm a real estate agent, get information that I needed, and then have a way of having them now, have this relationship between them where I can help them out. So that's,
I'm sorry, that's a great touch, actually, multiple touches, right?
yeah. The initial touch is great as a new agent because you're reinforcing, like you send out something initially, right? Hey, new job, I'm a real estate agent, blah, blah, blah. You let everyone know. But then you're going that extra step and reinforcing it again. But yeah, all my friends and neighbors then knew that I had this database of service providers. I use something called Homekeeper database. And, I told everyone, I sent out, I actually have it on my, on the bottom of my email, like a link to it. Anyone can join into the database. And now what most of my friends do is they just send me an email or text and say, hey, send me this person. But some of my clients actually would log on, have an account, and they have access all the time to all the people in my database that are service providers. So you're giving them a great service. Every time they go in there, they're thinking of you. Or again, the other people, they're calling me or talking to me, sending me messages and asking for these different people. So yeah, it was a ongoing service and initial touch for a new agent. And you have now that list of people yourself. You have all these service people that when something goes wrong, or not go wrong, but when you need either your sellers generally that have work that, they come back, you get a home inspection and there's a long list of things that need to be fixed. They're going to ask you who to call. So you need to have a list of, pretty broad list and knowledge of service providers. So that's one of the big ways of helping out your client through a transaction. Likewise, talking about knowing the areas, you can't just say, well, I've lived here for a long time, I know the area. Well, do you know the HOA? How does the HOA work? How does this HOA work differently than another HOA? What are the parks there? What are the community? How many tennis courts? Getting that detailed type of information about the areas that you specialize in. Do they have a pool or don't they have a pool? Those type things become very important. So you have to go out and research. One of the things, you go and if I have a client that's interested in a house in a particular area, one of the first things I'll do is go on and search for the HOA and find out everything I can about the HOA in that area so that I know what they're getting, how much is it going to cost? What are the, I can send them pictures of it. I can describe it, tell them about it. If I'm doing an open house in an area that I normally don't work, or if I'm selling in a house, obviously, if I'm selling a house, I look up the schools, I look up the area, so we're constantly doing research in different areas of real estate to make sure that we can provide that stellar experience that we're telling our clients we're going to do. So Peter, do you have any examples of things that you've done to this past year? What have some things you focused on to make sure that you gave the best experience to your clients?
Well, I'll pick up on your HOA comments and absolutely emphasize that because not every HOA is the same. For example, some HOAs have restrictions on when you can have moving trucks in the neighborhood, those kinds of things. So there's some value add there. And then also knowledge of building codes and construction techniques. So I'll pick up on your example of the loose bricks, just reducing stress, because some people assume that the only thing underneath a brick is a pile of dirt. And, there's front steps are in danger of collapsing when in fact, it's typically a concrete slab and those bricks are just a veneer.
Right.
When you explain that to people, then you can see them, starting to relax a little bit.
Yes. That's an area, I didn't have a lot of experience in different home maintenance type things. My husband would do a lot of those, but going on lots of home inspections, when we're doing a home inspection, I listen very carefully to what the home inspectors do. You may have agents that are just over on their laptop or doing something and not paying attention. I'm walking through with that home inspector, looking at everything and listening to what he's saying, what he's, commenting on. And, if there are issues with the house, I then research. We've got the supercomputer at our hands here. So any type of problem, because there'd be things that came up on the home inspection that I'd be like, I don't even know what that's talking about. So, you have to Google it, you have to research it. I would, before I talk to my clients, I've looked through the home inspection and researched everything on there to have a feel for, what needs to be done. Is that a big problem, a little problem? They're counting on us to have that expertise, and we may not have it right when we start. But again, that's another area, there's, as I was saying to Catherine, there's so many areas in real estate that you need to learn and focus on. So it's constantly learning, constantly diving into all these different aspects to make sure that we really do create the stellar experience. Even like negotiation, there's negotiation classes. I took a negotiation class to kind of understand better how that really works and what people are really thinking of. So, the big thing that I push is constant education. When you're a real estate agent, there are continuing education classes that you can get for free from your associations, some that you pay a small amount of money for, and they're worth it. You want, these first few years as a realtor, I just took every class I could. And they all help you create the stellar experience for your clients. Okay, so any ahas from our discussions today? Anything that kind of you hadn't thought of before, didn't realize, or something you want to reiterate? Peter, did you learn anything today from this? Was this helpful at all, or had you pretty much gone through all this? Had you done a class like this before?
I have, but as you said, lifelong learning is key. And one of the things that this morning's session has emphasized, whether it's a value statement or whatever you're putting a marketing piece, is always put it in terms that the client's going to relate to, or from their perspective.
And I didn't do that initially. It didn't occur to me that, how you really need to translate it. When people are reading your material, they're reading how does this help me? How is this helpful to me? Not caring what you can do or what your skills are, but how does it relate to me? That's what they're looking for. And initially when we write stuff down, especially because someone says, what are your skills? So you kind of write them in one format, and then you really need to translate them over. Catherine, what was sort of a big learning point for you today?
Definitely how to distinguish yourself, what makes you different. Again, this is stuff you don't always think about. I feel like in general, people are more modest and we're not out there, tooting our own horn. So that's huge. And just kind of what my goals and value and everything is as I go forward. How do I want to market myself? What kind of experience do I want to bring to my clients? I have been so focused on passing the exam and memorizing, all the facts and figures and legality that is needed in order to pass the exam. And now I have to kind of shift and look at this a little bit more. So I think this was hugely helpful. I really loved hearing everybody's ideas, figuring out how that applies to me, if I want to be that kind of agent or different, or and just really thinking about going forward how I want to distinguish myself. So this was really helpful. It was a big help. Thank you.
Good. Okay. All right. I think we're to the end of our first session. This is the 410 that we were talking about earlier, the things that you need to be doing on a weekly or daily basis in order to build your database and lead generation. Okay, so why don't we take like a 5-minute break?
You go back too real fast. I was going to write it down real fast. Thank you.
So this
The
one?
10. Yes. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. Thank you.
There are, I think in the Ignite toolkit, Peter, you had did Art tell you like at the first meeting where to get the Ignite toolkit, or did Kari send that to you?
Yeah, and I can, if you'd like, I can put the link in the chat box.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
That would be helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think Kari had sent that out to everyone, because I think this is in there. I assume the 410 is in there. There's actually, yeah, I know it is, because I printed out one version of it. I have a version here. And it's a little chart, Catherine, that you can, keep track of things. You can do it online. There's online versions, or you can have it on paper, whichever you prefer. But it just makes sure that you're, keeps you getting the things done that you need to in order to grow your business. If you don't have any clients, you can know everything you need to know as a realtor and make zero money.
Yeah.
It's a business. It's real estate agent. And it's sort of a chicken and the egg type thing. I know when I first started, they'd talk about, okay, you need to do this lead generation and contact people. And I was scared. I thought, well, what if they want me to sell their house? I don't know anything yet. And you don't, there's so much to learn. There's ways though to start reaching out to people, like I mentioned, with the contractors and, and just cards and and doing different things, and having a mentor help you, so that if on day one, Catherine, if tomorrow you have a client, when you have a mentor, that mentor then will help you through your transaction so smoothly to make sure nothing goes terribly wrong. So you can be out there lead generating, even though you haven't gone through all the classes and learned everything yet. It takes a long time to build up all the skills. You never get all the skills you need for a real estate agent ongoing.
I can imagine. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so why don't we take 5 minutes, and then we're going to come back and we are going to go on to our next section for today.
Awesome.
Ardit and Chris, are you guys with us? Hello? I didn't know anyone had joined us besides Peter and Catherine.
Yeah.
Although I'm not
Ardit,
hearing responses.
Ardit and Chris have been on most of these classes. So, they
Ardit,
were
Chris, either of you there?
there prior to the break. So
Oh, their pictures were on? They were,
yes, yeah, they had live feeds.
okay. Yeah, I didn't see them, their picture wasn't added, I guess, because
Yeah.
I had the share screen up. I didn't mean to leave them out. Let's see if they come back. I was focusing all my questions on Peter and Catherine, not realizing we had other people on. Oh, there. Hi, Ardit. I was apologizing. I didn't realize you jumped on later.
Oh no, yeah, sorry that I got a little
Should have said something. I
late.
was talking to Peter and Catherine the whole time, and I didn't realize you and Chris had jumped on.
It's okay. It was still useful information just to hear.
Did you have any questions? I didn't get to ask you
No,
if you had any
actually,
questions.
no. One aha that I had is, I really didn't really consider a lot before what my value proposition was. So it was great to think over it and kind of understand what am I giving
Okay,
to
good.
the clients. Yeah.
All right. All right. We're running out of time, so I'm going to go ahead and start on this next one. It's important to do. Hopefully Chris will join us. I'm going to share screen again. Okay, now I got pictures of all of you. I guess my pictures had switched to a different mode or something. All right, so for this section, this is more of our transactional phase of the class. It's relevant to the actual real estate transaction. We're going to talk about making and receiving offers. All right, and as I mentioned, this comes right there in running our business. All right, to begin with, we're going to review the offer process. This will give you an idea of the steps you will take to get to the point where you're ready to negotiate the offer with a seller's agent. So we're going to start from the point of being a buyer's agent. We've shown a buyer a house, and now they want to make an offer. So once they found their perfect home, this is where the fun and magic begins, making that offer. All right, so keep in mind when we get to this point, the buyer, the seller has their house on the market. They're just waiting anxiously for someone to make an offer. The buyer has found a house and they are super excited. So one thing to just always keep in mind is the realtor, you must be the calm, reassuring, and in control person for your client. And the other agent hopefully is too. Everyone else may have really high anxiety at this point, talking about a lot of money, buying and selling a house. So you are the calm person, and you need to be the one who's just very, based on the facts, keeping things calm. So here's what our process is, the offer process. Buyer makes an offer, sends it off to the seller. So the seller can respond in one of three ways. They can counter the offer. And one thing to keep in mind, if they make any change at all, on the contract that requires one single initial. You know, if you change one date, oh, hi, Chris. Chris, I was telling.
I'm dealing with a listing, and it's my first one, and you know.
Well, I apologize. I didn't realize you and Ardit had jumped on earlier. I wasn't, I was talking just to Peter and Catherine. I felt bad. I didn't realize two people had jumped on, so I apologize. Somehow your windows didn't pop up. I didn't see you, so.
No worries,
Apologies.
not at all.
Okay. So, so that you haven't, the counter. So I was saying, let's say you just changed the settlement date. Everything else is perfect, but you change the settlement date one day. Or maybe even on the sheet, like a conveyance, you have someone listed that there was a built-in microwave, and you correct that and say, no, it wasn't built in, and you have to initial it. One initial, one change means it's a counter offer. And they actually have the opportunity for any change at all. They no longer have to, the buyer no longer has to accept that offer. Any change means the first offer's been rejected, and now you're countering with the second offer. Okay, so accepts the offer. And again, this doesn't happen very often that you accept everything. There's usually at least some detail of a counter offer. Very rarely will it be an absolutely perfect offer where there's no corrections or anything, and you just sign, you know, the buyer sign or seller signs everything and you just go. But that's option number 2. And then there's rejects the offer. As a listing agent, you really don't ever want to encourage your seller to reject the offer completely. If somebody, you know, what I always tell my seller, let's say they get a lowball offer and they're just like, forget it, that's so low, I'm not even going to counter. We're not even going to deal with them. What I always try to tell them is, you know, a buyer was interested enough to write an offer. You know, it took some time to come up with the offer, sign it, get it all done properly and send it. So they obviously have some interest. So, you know, I always say at least, you know, counter the offer. Maybe you counter it something very high, you know, but at least give them a chance, let them know that, you know, there's usually not a good reason to reject the offer completely.
Hey, Judy, real quick practical question. Excuse me for interrupting. It's Chris.
Feel free to ask questions along the way.
Before you commit the offer to a contract, what is the method? Are you just emailing back and forth? Is there a form that people use, you know, that sort of outlines? I've done tons of sales and tons of contracting in my life, and we used to use a form, you know, an email and then, or a term sheet, and put that out before we committed it to a contract.
No, okay. Usually the way we do it, and we're going to get to this. Are you going to be here throughout the whole session, or are you going to?
I am, so forgive me for preempting you.
No, no problem. We will get to that, though. We'll talk about how we send it and the forms. I'll talk about that in just a little bit. All right, so the first step is preparing the offer. And in your workbooks that you have, there's a checklist on, oops, I'm not sure what the page was. Maybe it says here. Oh, do you guys all have that workbook? Okay, your student section. All right, so we're going to go over, there's a lot to do to prepare for the offer before you even get around to sending it. And this is some of the things that Chris was talking, we'll hit on some of her things soon. But so the agent, though, as an agent, you're going to do all of these things before you even start writing the contract with your client. So the first thing, obtain the buyer's pre-approval letter from their lender. Okay, in our market, in our area, no seller will even consider, that would be one time when you would reject an offer completely. If they don't have a pre-approval, you're not even going to take them serious. The seller won't even take you serious. So you absolutely When someone comes up to you and says they want you to represent them, they want to buy a house, you know, one of the first things I always tell them is, do you have a pre-approval? If they say no, I recommend one. Jocelyn Lasher works in our office from McLean Mortgage. She's great. I've done a lot of transactions with her. I tell them, hey, let me send you information. There's a great lender that I work with at our office. She can definitely come up with the pre-approval for you. I'll send the contact information. But you're also welcome to shop around interest rates, you know, check with whoever you want, but I recommend her. And I make sure a lot of times I won't even take a buyer out to look at a house until I have that pre-approval, because they may tell you, oh, I can buy up to $700,000, and you're looking at all these $700,000 homes. And then finally you find one they like, then they get the pre-approval and you find out they can afford 500,000. You know, you've wasted all that time. And now when you take them to a $500,000 house, they're not going to like any of them. You know, they've been looking at $500,000 ones now, or 700,000. Now that's obviously a big gap, but even 700,000 to 650, it's a big, you know, that could be a big difference in what you're going to get in your house. So I always make them get a pre-approval first before we even I may start sending them listings on a search, but I don't like to take anyone out till I have that pre-approval. And again, no seller will accept an offer without it in our area. So that is a requirement. All right, number 2, produce a comparative market analysis. Did you guys discuss that already in one of the classes? No, you haven't gone over comparative market analysis? Okay,
No,
so
but I've done
Not a
them.
comprehensive, no.
okay, so a comparative market analysis, what I use is Bright MLS. They have a program that kind of you walk right through it. There should be a class, maybe one of the next classes will talk about pricing. But this helps. Basically what you're doing is you're comparing other houses to the house that your client is either buying or selling. And you use those comparisons to come up with a approximate price for the house. So this is, you know, this is a big part of your listing presentation when you're selling a house. You know, you go to the sellers and you tell them the price. That's what they want to know. What should I sell it for? But you also do this for your buyers, because maybe the house again is listed at 700,000, and then you find out every house in the neighborhood, you know, the most any have sold for 650,000, and this doesn't have any updates, nothing special, you know, so it could be way overpriced. So you want to make sure, you know, is that price high? Is it low? Is it right on? And you want to be able to have the data to show your buyer so that they know, hey, look, you know, looks like a good deal. You know, you should jump on it. But you have the comparative market analysis so you can show them the information backing why you think that price is either high, low, or right on. And that's going to help them decide how much they want to offer for the house. Okay. Number 3, it says review the tax records. I review the tax records first thing, or one of the first things I do when I'm coming up with my comparative market analysis. So I think that's part of your CMA. The tax records will show you the size of the house, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, that type of information. You also will find out how much did the sellers pay for the house. Right now, you know, anyone selling their house is making money because the prices have gone up so much. But 4 years ago, that wasn't the case. You know, for a while, the market was very stagnant. Certainly 10 years ago, a lot of people were losing money. So that sort of gives you an idea of maybe why they're pricing the house, you know, at that particular price. Are they underwater? You know, how much have they had it for 20 years, or did they just buy it? That may be some insight as to why the seller is pricing the house the way they are. Okay, so
Judy,
yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but just
No,
a quick
no
note.
problem.
There is training on doing CMA's comparative market analysis on the Bright MLS website and also on their YouTube channel, and also on the KW Dulles YouTube.
Yeah, and we usually, I know I just talked with Kari recently. We have someone come from Bright MLS that teaches that. We have a class coming up. Kari, can you hear me? Are you listening? We have a CMA class coming up, right?
You said Bright MLS class?
This isn't it a CMA?
A CMA class, yep.
Yeah.
Yep, April let's see here. I think it's April 8th.
Okay, so mark your calendars, April 8th. I know Kari has sent out emails about it. Usually Ignite goes over CMAs also, but this class that is coming up is going to be way better on April 8th. This is a Bright MLS expert who's going to go through and show you step by step how to do a CMA on Bright MLS. And coming up with a good CMA is critically important for both the buyer and the seller. So mark your calendars. Thank you, Kari. Okay, so number 4 on the list, ensure that the property is still available. Okay, this is definitely a good thing to do, especially in our current market. Our current market, you see that it's coming soon. That still doesn't mean that it's available. Anytime something's on the listing, I always, before I write an offer, I'm going to call the listing agent. And the first thing I ask them is the house still available? Because they may be in the process of writing up, maybe they're accepting an offer and they're just getting signatures right now. They're like, yeah, we already accepted, we already received an offer and we're negotiating on it. My clients are just initialing the last couple things. So basically we're done, so there is a chance that even though it says it's active or it's coming soon, it really, the sellers may have already decided on something and they may be negotiating an offer and, just finalizing dotting the I's and crossing the T's. So you want to find out whether it's still available. On that phone call with them, the next thing it says, when speaking with the listing agent, build rapport and gather as much information about the seller and the property as you can. So, you call up, hey, we're interested in this property. Is it still available? Yeah. Oh, great. So when would your sellers like to move out? That's usually the next thing I ask. What would be their ideal settlement date? You want to find out, is there anything else they're looking for? Do they need a rent back? Anything special about things conveying? Where are they moving? You might just start chit-chatting. Be friendly with that listing agent. Listing agents have a lot of control over who their buyer. Let's say there's multiple offers and one agent is a total jerk and one agent is someone I work with and I think they're great and they're very professional. I've done other deals with them, or they're, something. It can make a big difference. If the listing agent gets a bad vibe about an agent, he or she may spread that bad vibe to the seller and you could end up losing a deal. I know I was just talking to a very experienced agent in our office the other day, and this agent got multiple, a ton of offers, and mentioned that a couple agents didn't even call. And she just disregarded those offers right off the bat. So that's, the sellers are going to listen to what the listing agent says. And of course, the sellers are going to go for usually the most money or something that's most convenient to them. But the listing agents have a lot of power to kind of twist things or negotiate with a particular agent. So you want to talk to that listing agent. You want to have that rapport, be nice, and gather any information that you can that might be helpful to your buyers when they're writing their offer. So that hit a couple of them there. Inquire about the activity on the property. That's always a good one. How many people have you received any other offers? If if it's still available, you know, the first question was, is it still available? Well, have you received any other offers yet? And then if they say yes, well, how many? How are they? You know, are they really strong? You know, and they usually will give you some insight as to, yeah, they're all, you know, they may tell you that they're all really good offers and you're going to have to go over asking price. They may tell you that, hey, you know, they're decent, but they can be beat. You know, they're kind of give you some clues maybe. So you want to use these clues to help your buyer write an offer that is going to be a winning offer for them. Okay, the next thing it says, obtain the seller's disclosure statement. Okay, we call that the residential property disclosure. And in Virginia, the residential property disclosure, for the most part, is a blank piece of paper that they just sign. It's almost more of a disclaimer than a disclosure. Virginia is considered a buyer beware state, that they don't have to tell you. The buyer doesn't have to give you a list of things that they think may be defects with the house. You, the buyer, have to figure that out yourself. So for the most part, you do have to get this form. Usually the form is going to be available on the listing, Bright MLS on the listing. You go under documents and you can download that document, and it should already be signed by the sellers, and they are disclosing usually nothing, but you have your buyers sign it and it becomes part of the contract. So it is something that you need to download and get. If they don't have it on the MLS, when you're talking to the agent, you ask, hey, do you have the residential properties disclosure on the MLS? If they say no, then say, well, we're going to write an offer, please email it to me, you know, and say give them your email address or something and have them email it to you. Okay, I added on a couple more things that weren't on this list. I said, ask if there are any additional terms other than the sale price that they are looking for. Again, what would be the date that they would like to settle? Do they need that rent back? Do they have a preferred title company? Is there anything they are looking for? Maybe I've had clients that were willing to take a little less money, but they really wanted to sell it as is. You know, they've done a lot of work and they do not want to do any more repairs, you know. So sometimes you can get some insight as to what they're really looking for, what's going to be important to them. And that way you can help craft your offer, your buyer's offer, to meet the seller's wishes, because you want them to accept it. And when it comes down to, you know, in the end, usually the fight or negotiation it's over the money. You know, the buyers want to pay as little as possible and the sellers want as much as possible, right? So that's what you're really, you know, that's what you're going to be sort of fighting over. You know, it's usually the money. So if the buyer can at least do these other things that the seller wants, like, hey, we're going to meet your settlement date, we're going to, you know, we're willing to do these other things that you're asking. So you should be willing to negotiate a little bit with us on the price. The other thing I mentioned or wanted to mention to prepare for writing the offer is make sure you as realtors have read over the entire sales contract, all the addendums, and you know what in the heck you are writing in this offer. What are you promising? So you need to be able to explain this to your buyer, and you need to understand that contract in detail. I just helped, so I was listing a house last summer, and the buyer's agent was new, and quite frankly, she didn't know what she was doing. And her buyers were young. They didn't seem to know what they were doing. I tried to assist her and letting her know she was getting herself into trouble. And she just didn't get it. She did not realize that if they did not perform what was required on the contract, that they could lose their $10,000 earnest money deposit. And, you know, I knew the contract. I knew what they were doing. I knew what we needed to do to make sure that we would get that money if indeed the contract or the transaction fell through. And they just didn't get it. They didn't understand the contract. They, you know, they said they understood it, but they didn't understand then why we would take the $10,000, you know, and that they had not performed what they needed to do based on the contract. And we even gave them a whole second chance, and they failed a second time. So eventually they were very unhappy, sad people, because they lost $10,000. And you as a real estate agent are going to be miserable if that happens to you and your clients. You know, nothing worse than screwing up. And it was the buyer's agent's fault. She didn't know what the heck she was doing. And in the end, her clients lost $10,000 because of that. So that is a hard lesson to learn. You want to understand the contract. There's different clauses, different addendums that can help you to negotiate better, to get what your client wants. And you need to know what's going to happen if, you know, those things don't happen the way they're saying, you know, they're supposed to be. You've got a lot of deadlines, and those deadlines are exact. If you're one day late, then you've missed your deadline. You know, one day makes a difference. So you really need to know those contracts. And Brad's going to teach some different contract classes. Your mentor can help you with the contracts. Our Vesta Settlements, Keith Barrett, he is great. He teaches contracts class. So whenever you see an opportunity to take a contracts class, take it. Everything you learn at that class is incredibly important for your clients. All right, any questions? All right. So as a real estate agent, we've done all this preparation. We've talked to the listing agent, we've done our CMA, we've done all our research, and we've talked to our buyer. You know, and as an agent, what we're doing is making recommendations and sort of leading them down the direction that we think is going to be most successful. One of the things I always say, I don't ever want to make a decision for the buyer or the seller, but I try to educate them and let them really understand their choices, and, you know, maybe tell them what the way things would normally go. I never, though, like to make an actual decision for my client by saying exactly how much they, you know, I don't tell them this is how much you should offer. I may, you know, I try to lead them in the direction of what I feel is the best way to go without actually making these type of decisions for them. All right, so there's another checklist in your student workbook, and we're going to go over these. This is, so Chris was asking earlier about, and Chris, were you asking really like physically, what do we write it on, or?
Yeah,
okay.
physically.
Okay, so we're
so if there's like a form that people use, or if they just do it, email it back and forth,
okay,
you know, before you commit it to paper. I mean,
okay.
I've done an initial kind of discussion on the phone recently, but it wasn't going to be the terms weren't even going to be good for my buyer. So we didn't even commit it to paper. It was just a discussion I had with the listing agent.
Right. And sometimes when you do have that discussion, like I said, you ask the listing agent, what are the terms they're looking for? I know someone had was going to make an offer one time, and they found out that the seller wanted a 2-week rent back, and the buyer was just like, oh, there's no way I'm going to do that. And in this current market, I was like, well, somebody will, so you might as well not even write an offer, you know? So yeah, sometimes you find out up front, or again, are there offers already? Yeah, we have multiple offers, and some are way over the asking price. Well, you know, maybe your buyer, that's the very most they can do. That price is it. So again, you may just decide not to even write at that point. So that's why you are calling that listing agent. So in this case, let's say we've done all our homework and they're ready to move forward. So now the first thing we're going to do is talk to our buyer. And again, without telling them, you don't want to tell them what to do, but you want to encourage or discuss or say the benefits of different options that they can pick on different terms. And you're sort of recommending what you think they should do, and usually ask them first. So what do you think you want to do? And then you discuss, okay, that's good, or consider this, give them advice. A lot of times they don't know. Again, there's things in the contracts like the home inspection. Do you do it with void only, or do you do it with repairs? There's things with the finance contingencies. Do you waive the appraisal? Do you keep the appraisal? Do you even have certain contingencies? There's a lot of different options. And especially right now, with it being a seller's market, you really need to know all those different options and know the pros and cons of all those options to help guide your buyer. It mentions in here seller's disclosure. Again, that's usually blank in Northern Virginia, so not a big deal. It mentions conveyances. Sometimes you will, like maybe there was a pool table in the house and your buyer says, hey, I'd really like the pool table. Or there's a hot tub, but we're not sure if, does that convey or not. So some of these things you could write on the contract that you want the pool table to convey, or theater chairs. Sometimes you write it up front, depends. It sometimes depends. Other times depending on what the market is. Again, in a seller's market, I would have the buyer not ask for anything, and you try to work that out later after you've already, got a contract ratified. But if it's a buyer's market, and the sellers are just desperate to sell their house and it's been on the market for 6 months, then the buyer can definitely start saying, yeah, I'll buy the house, but only if you throw in the pool table and the theater chairs or something like that. Earnest money. Make sure you discuss earnest money with your buyers ahead of time. In Northern Virginia, our area, usually the minimum amount of earnest money is 1%. 1 to 2% is what people generally will put down. So you need to talk to your buyer, make sure they're aware of that. Hopefully you've discussed it a long time ago, but decide how much earnest money they want to put down. Do they want to put down just 1%? If they put down more than 1%, it shows maybe more commitment. Might be something the seller's going to be happy to see. But it also depends on what contingencies you may have. You don't want to lose that earnest money deposit, as I was discussing earlier. So usually the 1 to 2% is what you're gonna have to put down, and they need to have that money ready to drop off at the settlement company or wire to them immediately. The way I usually do earnest money deposit, when I'm working with buyers, I always recommend Vesta Settlements. They are our business partner and they are excellent. I love working with Vesta. Vesta has a program called ZOCAM. And I have my buyers, as soon as we're ratified on a contract, I tell them, if we ratify, I need that check immediately. And they can write out a personal check for the earnest money deposit. They give me the check and I use this program. It's an app where you got your camera and you're just snapping a picture like a mobile deposit to a bank. And that money then is immediately sent to Vesta Settlements. And I know that earnest money deposit got dropped off immediately, because you only have our broker, Brad Boland, gives us 3 days to get the money deposited into the escrow account. So I like to get it there the next day. There is actual consequences. If you miss that deadline, there are real estate consequences that you could be fined. You don't want to make that mistake. You want to make sure that money gets there. So make sure your buyer knows They have to have that money ready immediately when you are writing up that contract, ready to go. Okay, you're going to discuss the financing terms. Again, we talked about the pre-approval. Hopefully you've already, they may have, your buyers may have picked an agent or a lender that you don't know. Let's say they decided just to go with some bank, SunTrust Bank, and that's not who you normally use. You should be communicating though with their lender before you make this offer. Call up the lender, talk to them, tell them you're going to need that pre-approval, and just have an open communication with that lender so that hey, how high can they go? If they want to go a little higher, can they? How much are that? You need to know the details to write it down on the contract. Are they putting down 20%? Are they going to put down 10%, 5%? So you need to talk to that lender and know the details of what your client is able to do and what's in the pre-approval. And so even though maybe you got a pre-approval a month ago and the lender, you've been talking to the lender, when you're actually writing the offer though, you call up that lender again and get a new letter that has the exact amount that you're going to offer on the house. So if you're offering $700,000, you tell the lender, you give them the information and say, here's the address of the house, this is what we're buying, and this is how much the sales price is. And they will then fine tune the pre-approval to be specific for that house and have the exact amount on there. Okay, so you've worked out closing date, you've talked to the listing agent, you talked to your client, decide on what date you want to close. I always try to close on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. When you're closing on Friday, you run into some issues with the utilities. You actually transfer the utilities the day after settlement. So if you're settling on Friday, that means all your utilities are transferring over on Saturday. And some of the utility companies won't do that. So then if you have your seller has to have everything in their name until Monday. So I prefer to not close on a Friday for that reason. And then Monday, it's just good to have a work day the day ahead in case something goes wrong or you still haven't gotten information from the lender. It's nice to have that one work day before you're actually closing and going to settlement with your client. So if possible, try to do it Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. Also, keep in mind, most people tend to settle at the end of the month, especially like your new first-time home buyers, they're renting and the rental ends at the end of the month. And just the way people are thinking, they're kind of like, well, we'll stay here the end of the month and then move. It's sort of a psychological thing. Well, what happens is the title companies end up being overloaded at the end of the month. They have, half of their business may be the last week of the month. So they're going to be really busy that week. So doesn't it make sense to try to settle at a different time when they're not at their crazy busiest? So if you can try settling, in the middle of the week, in the middle of the month, that is ideal. Try to avoid if possible. If your clients are renting and they have to be out, you do what your clients want. But if it's optional, try to pick something that's not that last week of the month. Okay, mentions home warranty. Home warranty is a nice perk when it's a buyer's market. Again, if someone's been sitting on their house trying to sell it for 3 months, 6 months, and you say, they're trying to attract buyers. So one of the things that we would do is offer a home warranty. It's about $600 and it covers your buyer's expenses if anything breaks on the house that first year. So it was kind of a nice perk to throw in there and help attract a buyer. In this market, a seller's market, the seller doesn't need to do anything to attract buyers. So right now, it's not really a big thing that's being used. If your buyer really wants a home warranty, they can either buy it themselves, or you as a buyer's agent could offer to buy it for them if that's something that you do. Uh, a lot of agents used to do that, but these home warranties have gotten a lot more expensive. They used to be maybe a couple $100. Now they're up to $600. So home warranties right now are not a big thing. This list mentions repair limits. Normally, you're not asking for any repairs in your offer that you're giving. There are cases, though, again, when it was a buyer's market, sometimes you would right off the bat, like rather than waiting for the home inspection and fighting about these windows that are all fogged up, that clearly have a problem. Or some door that isn't working properly. When you did your showing, you found a few things that were visibly a problem. If it's a buyer's market, it's not a bad idea to jot those things in there right off the bat and let them know that you want it repaired. But again, in our market now, it's a seller's market. You're not even asking for any home repairs after a home inspection at this point. So you definitely do not want to ask any repairs. If there's something that your clients don't like and they can't live with it, then don't even make the offer at this point. You can't ask really for anything at this point. When you're making an offer on a house, you want your offer as clean as possible. Okay, it mentions special clauses and contingencies. Again, this is what I was saying earlier, know your contract. There's a lot of different contingencies. If your buyers are selling a house, is it under, there's two different options for contingencies. One contingency is you're on the market, but you don't have a seller yet. The other one is you don't have a buyer yet. The other one is you have a buyer, but you haven't settled yet. You need to know what your contingencies are and what contingencies the buyers must have. Right now, one of the things that's happening is people are waiving the appraisal. Well, let's say the house appraises way above the asking, or appraises way below the sales price that was decided, $20,000 below, and your buyer waived the appraisal. They need to have $20,000 cash to bring to the table to make up the difference now. If they don't have $20,000, they're going to be in default and they're going to lose their earnest money deposit. You got to make sure if you're waiving contingencies or making offers to things, it's something that your buyers can actually come through with and do and that they're comfortable with. Okay, the last thing on this list it mentions is to have a cover letter. Okay, so let's talk a little bit what Chris was asking. How does this offer actually happen? Usually in our area here, we don't send a summary or anything. Well, we send a summary, we send it in the cover letter. But usually you call the listing agent, you may get a little bit of information about, do they have offers or don't they? What are they expecting? But once your buyer decides they want to make an offer, you actually are writing out the offer. So we use here at Keller Williams, we use DocuSign. And you can go to DocuSign directly, or you can go through Command where your opportunity is and go down to DocuSign. You're going to download the documents. Again, knowing the contract, you need to know which documents you need to write that offer. And you're going to download those documents in DocuSign. You will fill out, well, actually, this is if you're doing it electronically. So you've got your DocuSign document. You're going to type in everything based on what you and the buyers have decided. And then you can send it electronically to them using DocuSign for signatures. So once they've electronically signed it, comes back to you. At that point, what I do is I download it. And sometimes you have you have your main sales contract, you got your home inspection contingency, finance contingency, maybe something else. So I download all of those documents as PDF files and then join them into one large PDF file. I also attach the pre-approval letter You need to send that. Sometimes people will do like one page of the MRS or the MLS listing, but you need, again, your contract and the pre-approval for sure. Put those all together in one giant PDF. And then what I do is I just attach the PDF to an email, and I have my cover letter. I don't really want the cover letter as part of that PDF, because that whole PDF file, that will eventually go to the lender and to the title company. So I then just have my cover letter is really on the email. And what I have is a summary. I call it summary of the offer. So I have the purchase price. I have the earnest money deposit amount. I list which contingencies, like, I may say finance contingency, appraisal contingency, home inspection contingency. I will say what type of loan it is. Is the loan VA, or is it conventional? FHA. Those are the three main loans that we see around here. I will put the settlement date. Seller subsidy, I include that if there is a seller subsidy. I will mention if there's a home warranty, yes or no. Then I say the companies that we're using. Who's the financing company? Jocelyn Lasher, McLean Mortgage. Who's the settlement company? Vesta Settlements. And then I have my name, buyer broker. I also then, so I have that summary. I also have a little letter that I'm going to send to the listing agent. And usually I'll tell them maybe a little bit about my buyers, why they're so interested, or, hey, they loved it or loved this or that, put a couple niceties in the letter. Again, in this market, sometimes you have the clients will write, the buyers will write a whole letter that they want delivered to the sellers to tell them about, sometimes I'll write a little letter. If it's going to be a competitive offer, though, I may have my clients, if they're willing to do it, I'll have them write a letter directly to the sellers, and I'll attach that too, or cut and paste that as part of my email. But generally we do this through email. Sometimes if it's another Keller Williams agent, either in our office or one of the other offices, sometimes they will send the offer to you through DocuSign. So that's an option. You can do that. I just prefer to do it through email because not everyone uses DocuSign. Not, people's technology level may be different. It's just kind of the way I've chosen to do it. And most agents do it that way. They will send you an email and just have the PDF file attached to the email. So at that point, we're going to now move on to what happens on the seller's side. Okay, so here it talks about creating the offer in Command.
Judy, quick question on the settlement company. Who's choosing that? I know that
The buyer.
The buyer does choose it. Okay.
Yeah, the buyer chooses the settlement company. And that's why, like, if I'm the buyer agent, most buyers don't know who to use. They don't know anything about title companies. So I always recommend Vesta Settlements, and that's who we use. On the sellers, now sometimes though, maybe the seller put in the MLS, sellers prefer Vesta Settlement. So then maybe you tell your buyers, hey, they really want this title company. Are you okay with that? Yeah, we'll go with them. You also do have an option. You could split. You could have if your buyers, let's say your seller wants to use Vesta Settlement, but you want to use Champion or vice versa. You could split. I don't do that myself. I've done it a couple times because of particular scenarios. And I think it just gets a little more confusing to throw another company in there. If you talk to Keith and Melissa, they'll say it's fine probably, but it just seems like another level of things to go wrong, having multiple companies. So I kind of, unless there's really a good reason to split, I wouldn't do that. But the buyers, it's actually in the contract. The buyers, there's a spot in the contract where they will write down who they want to use for their title company. And then in addition to picking out the title company, that then is their escrow agent. So when it says, where will the earnest money deposit be? So if I'm using Vesta Settlements, the one line that says, it'll say buyers have used or chosen Vesta Settlements to be their title company or settlement company. The other line, it's saying, where will the earnest money deposit go? That's also Vesta Settlements then. So whoever your buyers pick for title company, that's where your escrow money or your earnest money deposit's going to go also.
So who's taking the earnest money to the settlement, to the escrow company? Is it the buyer's agent?
That's what I was saying. Like when I use Vesta Settlements, the way I do it, remember I mentioned I have them give me the check. I tell my buyers I need to pick up, as soon as we are ratified or within the day, if you ratify at night, I'm like, tomorrow I'm coming to pick up a check. I pick up the check and then I use that Zocom program because I just have to take a picture of it. You could have your buyers, let's say you're using a settlement company though that's far away from you, but really close for them. That's what they wanted. You could have them drop it off. I'm scared to do that because I know as an agent, I am in trouble if that doesn't get in there within 5 days. Brad says 3 days, legally it's 5 days. I'm in trouble. There may be, as an agent, I'm going to be penalized. So I don't want to, that's something I don't want to risk. So I always take it upon myself to make sure I collect the money from the buyers and I have it turned in. Now, the other option though, if they're going to wire money, if they're like, oh, I had one client, he was out of state for work. So he wired, I gave him the wiring instructions and, then just monitored it and made sure like, okay, you're wiring it today, right? So you could have them wire the money. If it's a check, you can have them, it's up to you. But that makes me nervous. So I want that money turned in as soon as possible. So Vesta Settlements makes it so easy, pick up that personal check from your clients, snap a couple pictures, type in some info and boom, it's done. So that's how I prefer to do it. Any other questions so far? There's a lot that we're covering. I know I'm going fast. Oh, another thing to mention, there's a lot of blanks, a lot of information on those contracts. Make sure you fill out everything. Don't leave anything blank. If you've ever worked with government contractors, you never leave anything blank. And actually, you could end up working with government contractors and they're going to be offended and upset if you leave anything blank. There are some agents that will, they only fill in the important stuff or things that are relevant. And if it's a no, they just leave it blank. Well, anyone later on can go back and just check those. They can write in whatever they want. If you're not writing no or checking a no or putting NA not applicable, someone could always go back at a later date and fill in a blank for whatever they want. So make sure you fill it out detailed. For the conveyance information, we now have a document with MLS that the listing agent hopefully will fill out and give you all the conveyance information. They're going to answer some questions that you might not know, that may not be obvious and to writing the contract. As a listing agent, I always fill out all that information. I want to make it as easy as possible for the buyer's agent and for buyers to write a clean contract. But again, when you're in a situation getting multiple offers, and I got an offer that is sloppy, the information's wrong. They clearly didn't spend much time or they don't know what they're doing. That makes me nervous. So, if I have a really clean offer where it's like, oh my gosh, this contract is perfect. They got all the information. They did their homework. They got, downloaded my information and they wrote out a perfect contract versus one that has a whole bunch of blanks or information that's wrong. That's going to make me very nervous. And I'm if I have multiple offers, I'm not going to pick that agent that did a half-assed job on the contract. I received one offer one time that was so bad that I just, actually I was mentoring someone and he showed me this offer and I said, I've never done this before. Send it back to him. I was like, we can't even tell for sure what the price is. It had like a sales price, but it had something else that was different. It didn't say what the, it was just so wrong and unfinished. And we sent it back to him and then he sent it to us again and it was better, but not great. And, and he was like, well, we're just trying to, let's not fight over little details. And it's like, no, these details on a contract are critical. Again, remember that couple that lost $10,000 last, a few months ago? These details are critical. So make sure you fill everything out and do your homework and get the information down properly. And that listing agent is going to think, hey, this person knows what they're doing, looks like a good person to work with. And your offer will have a much better chance of being accepted if you write a good, clean offer. Okay, that was an example of the, of a cover letter. And again, I would just do this as part of the email and then attach the offer. We're gonna pass on the role play. We're running out of time here. Okay, so it's time now to present that offer. And again, we were talking to Chris, we've talked about how we do it. You could do it through DocuSign or you can do it by an email. Oh, the other option when you're writing out your offer, you have DocuSign that you can do electronic signatures, but if it's, some people are going to be very comfortable with electronic signatures. Other people are just not good with computers. They're not technically savvy. They're not comfortable with an electronic signature. They may want you to come to their house. So the other thing you can do is you can fill out the contract completely from DocuSign and then just download it and print it out, drive over to where your client is. And this is actually kind of nice to do because then you can walk them through the contract. It's a little easier for some people to walk it through on person rather than doing it. Although now with Zoom, it's pretty easy to share a screen and walk through the contract with your client electronically too. But if they want, you can always print it out and they can hand sign and initial everything. Every page of the contract needs to be initialed. And at the end of each document, you need a signature. So you can do it in person or you can do it electronically now. And if you do it electronically though, I would recommend before you send it to them, ask them if they say no. But I always offer, hey, would you like to do a Zoom session? And I'll walk you through the contract so you understand, what we're offering and what you're signing up for. Because again, it's important to know that. Okay, so now it's time to, you're ready to send that offer. You're going to email it or DocuSign. Make sure you let the listing agent know. I send the email and then I also send a text and say, hey, remember me? We spoke earlier in the day. I told you offer was coming, just sent it. Please confirm receipt. And I'll put that on my email letter too. Please confirm receipt. Nothing's worse than sending off an offer and somehow it's too big maybe and it never quite made it, or their email system can't handle that big and you think you've sent an offer and you're waiting for a response and then you find out they never got it. So you want to confirm, plus you want to just confirm, what time is it that they got it and, what are they going to be, make sure they got it and find out then, hey, when do we expect a response? When do you think you'll be getting back to us? So let them know, send a text, make sure that they've gotten it and that they've confirmed receipt. And at that time, try to find out for your buyers, because immediately you're going to tell your buyers, okay, I sent it. They're like, oh, when are we going to hear back? So see if you can get some information as to when you get a response. All right, so now we're going to talk about, on the seller's side, receiving the offer. So we're no longer the buyer's agent. We're now going to put on the hat of the listing agent, and we've just received an offer. All right, so reviewing the offer. Again, there's another in your workbook if you want to take a look. There's a sheet of a list of things to consider. Oops, I printed it out. Ah, here it is. All right, so receive the offer. So when I've received an offer, I'm going to reply, because usually the agents want to know that you received it. I'm going to reply and I'm going to let them know, hey, thanks, got it. My clients are at work. We'll look at it tonight and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. So I'm going to try to give them some information as to when we're going to be looking at that offer. I've had cases where my clients are out of town and they're not going to look at it until Monday. So I let them know, if it's the weekend and we've decided, hey, we've got an open house tomorrow. We're going to wait till this open house is done before I present all the offers, if I'm expecting more offers. So just let them know when you plan to present it. And it may vary, depending on how many offers you anticipate getting as to whether you're going to present it right away or if you're holding off for some reason. This sheet talked about getting information, more details from the buyer. That's actually kind of hard to do. Usually you're not chatting that much more about, you may not know the details about your buyer. It says make sure they have a pre-approval. Obviously, we're not even going to accept it without a pre-approval. It says, do they have a home to sell? These are some of the things you're going to find out through the contingencies. Do they have let's say they do have a home to sell. You're going to then, if you consider this offer, you're going to later have to talk to the buyer's agent and find out the details about that house that they're selling. How far along are they in the sale process? Is it just on the market? Is it under contract? If it's under contract, have you gone through the home inspection? What contingencies are left? So you will want to dig into some more information if that is a situation, if there's a home sale contingency. Let's say you're expecting multiple offers. So then again, you may not be presenting right away. You may have heard that you have more offers coming in. The way that I generally like to handle getting multiple offers, you really need to come up with like a spreadsheet. And in this spreadsheet, detail that information that we discussed in the summary, all those important things. I have a spreadsheet and I have those listed in there. So my sellers then can take a look and see, okay, here's the price, here's the earnest money for all of them, here's the different contingencies that people are asking. And you can easily, settlement date, that's a big one. They can look at the spreadsheet and do an analysis on those different offers right off the bat, so they can start to figure out which one is going to work best for them. People ask sometimes like, okay, when the buyers write a letter and they send it, do you actually give that to the seller? Some agents do and some agents don't. Some agents may feel like, we just want them to focus on, what's really best for them, rather than being persuaded one way or another by who the buyers are. I've had some sellers, though, that have lived in the house for 30 years, and it's really important to them who the buyers are. They want to know who those buyers are. They love having a new young family move in or something like that. So if that's important to them, then you definitely, if there's letters or something from the families, you let them know. Some sellers couldn't care less who it is. All they care is about what are the terms and the amounts. So that's sort of up to you how you want to handle that. And it will probably vary based on the different clients. All right, so when I mentioned the spreadsheet. Also, when you get that offer, I don't call, I won't tell the seller immediately. I'm going to look over that offer thoroughly myself first too. I go and, look through all of it and make sure you have read and you've highlighted all the main points. So you know exactly what's in there. And if there's any questions about it, anything that looks a little unusual, definitely go ahead and call the buyer agent back, get any questions resolved, or if you have any issues, anything that comes up that you think is going to be an issue right off the bat, go ahead and call the buyer's agent back and get a little more information. Let's say they do lowball. You have a house that's been sitting for maybe 3 months. They lowball an offer. You might want to call back and say, hey, that looks pretty low. Why did you make, what were your buyers thinking? I received a lowball offer one time. I called up the agent and he said, well, I couldn't find any comps that supported your price. And I was like, oh, really? Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to send you all my comps right now because I have very good comps that do support the price that we're asking for. So you will understand when we counter your offer. And I sent him the comps and we did counter and he was like, okay, I don't know. I just didn't see him. I don't know if he didn't try or if that's just what he was saying. But, if you're on top of your game and you used comps, you have the information, that will help you out. All right, so now we're getting down to we've either made our spreadsheet or we've called our clients, the sellers, and told them the offer. It used to be way back in the day, you would drive over and you'd give them the piece of paper and it would be this pretty offer with, a nice letter from the buyers and all. Nobody does that anymore with, our electronic world. We get our offers, it's mostly over the phone. You call and you give them the information. If you do have a whole bunch of offers, then it's maybe a spreadsheet and you will send them the spreadsheet. But it's all done really over the phone now. I'll call up my clients and I will tell them, I don't send the offer to them right away because we may be countering and we have to go back to DocuSign. We're loaded up into DocuSign and make changes if we're going to counter. So I will tell them the summary of the offer, those highlights, and we'll discuss that and then make our decision as to whether we're accepting it, whether we're countering it, or whether we're rejecting. And again, usually it's going to be a counter. There's usually something that's going to be changed that you're going to be doing. So you're going to end up talking to the client, your client, find out what they want to do. If they're countering, how much, you give them information as to what you think they should do. You don't tell them what to do, but give them educational information. You put it into DocuSign, make the changes that need to be made, and then you can send it to them. Or again, you can print it out, take it over to their house and have them sign if they don't like the electronic signature. So once you've picked your offer and you've signed everything and you counter, you go ahead and send it back to the buying agent. And I will call and let them know, hey, just sent it back to you. And I'll tell them why we changed. If we made changes, I explain, yeah, we didn't like that price. And because we all mentioned the comps, I try to give reasons for why we are making our changes. Sometimes if you're going to counter, sometimes you might want to call the buyer's agent first and see what they think. Other times there's really no right or wrong reason or way to do it. Some agents will call and talk to the agent first. Sometimes you just put it down on paper and send it. A lot of times if you've countered and they're still not 100% happy at that point, the buyer's agent will just call you and say, hey, rather than going back and forth 10 more times with this document, let's just do it verbally and make our decision, see if we can come to an agreement. So, you know, quite often that first counter, you may just write what you want, any changes. But if it's a change in like settlement date or something like that, I would definitely call the buyer's agent first, you know, find out, hey, that date doesn't work for us. Will this date work instead? You know, so something like that, you definitely want to call and work out ahead of time. With the price, sometimes it may be better to just change the price and send it to them rather than trying to negotiate that over the phone initially. All right, so at this point, they've reached a decision on what you're doing, and you're getting back in touch with the buyer's agent. Either you're sending back the ratified contract. So the contract is not considered to be ratified until it is completely signed by both sides. All initials are done. Nothing else is going to be changed. At that point, it's a ratified contract. It's delivered to back to the buyers, and it becomes ratified then once they've received the contract. So, or it could, whoever makes the last change, they have to then deliver to the other party. And at that point, it's considered fully ratified. And there's at the bottom of the contract, you put the date as to when that contract was ratified. If you have multiple offers and you've accepted one offer, then you need to get back to all those other agents. I actually have sort of a form letter that I've written that says, you know, thanks them for their time. You know, it takes a lot of time to write an offer. Thank you very much. And, you know, a little fluff, and hope to work with you another time. If anything changes, I'll let you know. But I have a little nice, you know, kind of a nice little letter. And you want to let those other agents know as soon as possible that because they have buyers that are anxiously waiting to hear from you. So don't let that drag on. Let them know as soon as possible once you've decided to ratify with another person, another buyer. All right, I think that's it. We went over a little bit. Any questions about writing the offer, preparing to write the offer, or how you respond?
That's pretty clear.
Yeah, this is great, Judy. Thank you very, very much.
Sure. And sorry I went over a little bit with you guys. I should have warned you. All my classes tend to go over. I guess I talk too much.
I had one quick question.
Sure.
About the daily, 10-4, when you guys talked about that. If I decide to do a couple open houses this weekend, do I tell them that I am a new agent when I meet the agents, just full transparency, or you know, there to look around kind of thing?
Wait a minute. If you're going to open houses, did you say? Like you're visiting?
Isn't that part of the learning about the neighborhoods, knowing your market, previewing 10 houses?
Yes. Okay, so if you're going out, yeah, absolutely. When I was a new agent, every Sunday afternoon, you know, if I wasn't holding an open house, I would be out going to open houses. And generally, normally you have to, you know, sign in when you go to a house. I would take my card and I would just give them my card so that they knew that I was an agent.
If I don't have cards yet, I just let them know.
Yeah, if you don't have cards, just let them know, hey, I'm a brand new agent. I'm just here to preview the house.
Okay.
Now, with that in mind, though, because of COVID, it's a little harder. And some of these open houses have so many people going into them. So that is the only issue right now. I don't know how that, it's tough trying to preview houses right now.
Otherwise, you recommend like just looking on Zillow to kind of get to know.
Can I contribute? I'm a new agent as well. What I usually do is just like preview on my own time. I schedule appointments on my own. and I preview them alone, just because I've held open houses as well, and there's like now with this market 20, 30, 40 groups of
Yeah.
people, so you kind of, you know, you want to be mindful that there are a lot of people that actually want to buy the house, and in those 2-3 hours you want to give them the time first. So personally, I go even now, you know, like I've scheduled a couple of previews from like 3 to 5 p.m.
Yeah, make sure you let them know it's a preview though. When you're
Yep.
signing up on showing time, there's
Yep.
an option for preview or an option for actually bringing a client in. And
Yeah.
again, with COVID, people may, you know, you should be out previewing, and in a normal world, this would be not a big deal. But with COVID, it is a little trickier. Some people may not want you in unless you are bringing a client who is even pre-approved sometimes. What I would suggest you do, try to find as many vacant houses. If a house is vacant,
Yep.
that's great. And there's definitely, you know, lots of vacant condos and townhouses in particular. But, you know, try to find a house that's vacant. And as Ardit said, just sign up for a preview
Yeah.
anytime you want at a vacant house. A lot of times it's even set up that it'll just automatically confirm your time.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
but if there's somebody still living there, then it gets a little, you know, it's a little more of an issue right now with COVID. There are huge lines trying to get in on Sundays. If it's a Saturday open house, that might be a little bit better, but I agree with Ardit. I would try previewing and focus on vacant houses right now. Hopefully within a couple months, you know, things will start to return a little bit to normal here.
Well, in Texas from Monday, right?
Yeah, my son lives in Texas. He just got the vaccine last Monday, and he
Wow.
sent me a message saying he got the vaccine. Then a couple hours later, he said, "Well, good thing they just opened up Texas."
So just an experience that I've had twice so far. I've done a preview and scheduled it through showing time and all that happy stuff. And somebody notices that there's someone in the house, and they knock on the door and insist that they have the, I'll call it the 1 o'clock appointment, and it's 12:42. And I know I have, through showing time, I've got, whatever it is, a half an hour, 45 minutes. So no, you're not coming in. And they start arguing with me, and it turns out, because I've gone back to showing time, and people have, feeling pressure, and so they're doing anything they can to get in to see a house. And in one case, this individual wasn't an agent; they were just out, basically window shopping.
Wow. Yeah, when you go and you open up the lockbox, take the key inside with you and lock the door. That's what I always do, with whether I'm by myself or with clients. I grab the key, I leave the sentry box open so that if another agent comes, they know that I'm in there by leaving the sentry box open. But I lock the door behind me so that if someone does, you don't know who off the streets could just try to come in. And that way they have to ring the doorbell if they want to get in. And if it's your time, you don't have to let them in. And right now, I don't even know if you're allowed to overlap on MLS. I don't think so.
No.
They're one agent at a time because of COVID. So if you're in there, they need to wait until you leave. Now, if it hits their time, if you got there late, you may have to leave early then, leave quickly. But yeah.
Yep.
But definitely, Catherine,
really helpful.
Try to find some vacant homes, and that's a great way to get started. And you can always, because like I said, some people, it is an inconvenience if you have people living at the house and you're asking them to leave, and you're an agent and you're not even thinking, you're just doing a preview. It's sort of inconsiderate to the owners. Normally you would go out on a Sunday for the open house, but now we have such long lines trying to get into the open houses that that's a problem. So vacant houses are the way to go.
Yep.
Anything else? Any other questions or?
No, I think it was great, Judy. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Well, if you
Thanks,
guys
Judy.
ever have any questions, Judy Smith look me up on KW. I'm happy to help out anyone that has questions anytime.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure, no problem.
All right, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Everybody have a good weekend.
Thanks. Yes,
You as well,
you too.
guys. Take care.
Bye.
Bye, Carly.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Carrie. Have a good weekend.